My name is Jameson Antoine. I'm one of the co-founders of Scriptertainment, which is a mobile app that allows you to easily access movie scripts from your smartphone or tablet. I think we have a really great event planned for you tonight to kind of put some context around the whole screenwriting, script writing process. We've got some great panelists that are joining us tonight that have been kind enough. So very much want to just start with thanking you all for being here tonight. Definitely want to thank the folks at Social Media Week for having us as part of this this important event here in New York City. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank the folks at Microsoft for hosting us here tonight. So just wanted to give it up to Microsoft and Social Media Week and to yourselves. So just some housekeeping things. We have some folks, some team members out in the hallway that'll show you a little bit about the app and how to install it on your phone, because we want you to actually test it out. We have obviously we're working through some of those technical things where you could actually see the product in action to give you a little demo. That'll take place a little bit later on. And I want to make sure that you guys know about our raffle. We are raffling off tickets to a matinee for the rest of the week at the Tribeca Film Festival. So definitely make sure you look out for that. So just to give you just a heads up on what's going to happen tonight. We're going to have a table read to kind of walk you through the process of what actors are going through before they actually start shooting, and just kind of going through the scenes. We're going to do a demo of the app, as I mentioned, and then we're going to have a panel discussion with the folks that you saw in the invite. Cool? All right, y'all can yell. It's fine. We're gonna have fun tonight. All right, so don't feel like you gotta stay here. And it's cool. It's gonna be interactive. So I am going to go ahead and kick off. Let me just make sure that these guys are ready. So I told you we had a great panel set up tonight. I'm just going to give you some background on the folks that are going to be involved in in this part of the process. We are going to have Mark John Jeffries from the MJJ Acting Academy joining us tonight to do the table read. So Mark John from this is pretty cool because he's had the opportunity to play two very important figures in hip hop on film. So he's played Little C's in the Notorious film, and he also played the young version of 50 Cent in Get Rich or Die Trying. So very happy to have him on board. He's been in Monsters Inc., Stuart Little 2, Isaiah, a number of different films. Like, the brother is heavy. Obviously people know who he is. So we're very happy to have him here tonight and join us and walk us through a table read, and as well as some students from his acting academy. So we're going to introduce Mark John to come in and get kicked off with the table read. So just bear with us 1 second.
No.
Do we have any aspiring screenwriters in the room, or actors, actresses, directors, filmmakers? All right, you can raise your hand, show them up. All right, cool. What we definitely want to make sure that's done is what I always say about you come to the panel, the folks on the panel are pretty cool and exciting, but the networking and where you're gonna see the most growth is with the folks probably right next to you. So if there's an actor in the room, you'll need a director. Directors need actors and producers and financiers. So definitely make sure you network. Don't be afraid to talk to the people right next to you. Come on down, Mark. Down here. Cool. So yeah, just give it up one more time for Mark John Jeffries. All right.
Okay. I think there's still like oh no, it's 5 of us. Well, I'll sit right there because I'm just reading the That's fine. Mike, they're ready.
Yeah.
Candace.
Yeah, you guys come straight up.
You got your script? Devon, you have your script?
Yeah, okay.
Bring your scripts and tell Ashley to come on, please.
All right. So I guess while the actors and actresses come in, just give you a little background about Scriptertainment. Like I said, my name is Jameson Antoine, one of the co-founders. The company was founded by someone who's going to join us as a panelist, Stephen Longsworth. It came up with the concept for Scriptertainment about three years ago, maybe even before that, and it really just started as I remember Stephen saying, "You know what? I think I'm gonna create an app." And him being passionate about film, he definitely kind of made it happen over the last 3 years with myself, Sean, Wayne, who you'll see a little bit later, and this is just really a project of passion. You'll see that you'll hear some more of that from Stephen when we introduce him a little bit later on. But just a little background on the company as these guys get set up. So, ready? Go. All right, cool. So we're gonna do the table read. Enjoy.
Stephanie by Romney Rosario. Exterior city street night. A car parks across the street from an apartment. It's midnight and the streets are quiet and empty. At the wheel of the car is Stephanie Minna. Next to her on the passenger seat is a handsome man. Interior James' bedroom night. James Stock suddenly awakes from his sofa chair. He checks his clock, 12:02 a.m. He's been waiting there for some time. He walks slowly to his window and peers out. He sees the car across the street.
There she is, right on top. I wonder who she's with tonight.
He stays perfectly still and continues to look out his window at Stephanie's car. He checks his watch. He glances up and suddenly notices a small light coming from inside the car.
What is that? What are they doing in there?
He continues to look. A puff of smoke comes out of the driver's side window. He realizes they're smoking. James checks his watch again and waits. Finally, the driver's side door opens up and Stephanie steps out. The handsome man and her walk together to the apartment building. He sees the handsome man wearing a pair of glasses and a black suit. James sets a pair of gloves and keys and hurries out. Interior apartment building hallway continued. James inches close to Stephanie's apartment door and tries the key. Very slowly, he turns the doorknob and the door unlocks. He slowly opens the door slightly and peers inside. He sees Stephanie's reflection on a wall mirror. Through this view, he can see Stephanie beginning to undress in her bedroom across the way. She looks in the mirror. He sees the handsome man turn off all the lights in the apartment, go inside Stephanie's bedroom, and shuts the door. James creeps inside very slowly and silently. Interior Stephanie's apartment continued. He inches his way close to Stephanie's bedroom door. There is a faint light coming from the slit underneath the door. As he gets close, he can hear the bed creak and her heavy breathing. He sighs deeply. He understands what's going on. He turns and sees a pair of blue jeans. He walks over and checks the back pocket for the guy's wallet. He looks at the ID and puts it back. He leaves after stopping to hear Stephanie's moans coming from her room one last time. Interior James' bedroom, morning. James walks to his window and sees Stephanie walk to her car. He sees the man in her trunk, placing something inside. He gets in the passenger side and they drive away. Interior Stephanie's apartment continued. James enters and peers around. He goes into her bedroom and looks through her photo album. He finds condom wrappers in the garbage can. He walks over to her drawer and sees alcohol assignments, essays, reports, and sees school assignments, essays, reports, and tests. They all have A plus or a 98 score on them. He checks under the bed and finds a suitcase. He takes it out and finds it full of cash. Finds it full of cash. There's also a ticket to the Cayman Islands.
Holy shit. All the $100 bills. What the hell?
He quickly puts it back under the bed and finds something else under the bed. A pair of eyeglasses. One of its legs is missing. He discards it. He goes to her phone. He plants a wiretap under it. Next, he plants a small camera on the ceiling of her bedroom. James approaches her TV set, located next to a VCR and a stack of tapes. The tapes are labeled Video Diary. He puts a tape in and sees Stephanie's image appear.
It's February 9th. I'm in my room. It's 8:30 p.m. and I have one word on my mind. Photos. Yes, photos, please. I seriously need to have a photo shoot because I need new pictures. I absolutely love the art of a photographer. I love their passion, their wit, their vision. I need to find one. Gotta go. Until next time, peace, love, and happiness.
Interior apartment building hallway continued. James exits Stephanie's apartment and hears someone approach down the hallway. James quickly pulls out the key and hurries down the hallway to the corner. He turns and sees Stephanie and a tall man in a red jacket come to her door. They talk. She smiles. She caresses his arm and shoulder. They flirt. He walks away and she goes inside. Interior James' bedroom continued. James sits at his desk, puts on his headphones and flips on a screen. Stephanie appears on the screen in her bedroom. She takes off her shoes and lies on her bed. Her phone rings.
Hey, what's up? You coming to the party tonight? Yeah, I'm about to get ready. Anybody I know gonna be over there? Yeah, I think.
Static. James quickly gathers himself and adjusts his headphones. The signal's lost and all he hears is static. He hurries to fix the reception. On screen, Stephanie hangs up the phone and walks off screen. James watches as she takes off her clothes off screen and places her clothes on the bed on screen. He never sees her naked. She appears with a towel and walks off screen again. James gets up and leaves. Exterior city street continued. As James walks to his car, he notices something in the street. He picks it up. It's a leg from a pair of eyeglasses. Exterior street night. James sits in his car and stakes out the loud house party across the street. He can see the door is open and people entering and exiting the house. He can hear the music pouring out of the house. James gets himself ready and finally makes his move. He approaches the block, walks up the steps, and through the door. Interior house party continued. James makes it through the crowds of people, into the living room, into the kitchen. James finds Stephanie laughing and drinking with a pretty boy. The music is blasting loudly, and people are talking over each other. James fixes his eyes on Stephanie. She walks away and goes into the bathroom with the pretty boy. James walks over to the closed bathroom door. He takes a few steps back from the door when suddenly the door swings open and Stephanie and the pretty boy exit. Interior bathroom continued. James enters the bathroom and walks over to the sink. He brushes the sink counter with his hand and white powder flies out. Interior house party continued. James walks out into the dance floor and finds Stephanie dancing wildly and uncontrollably. He tries to sneak past her. Suddenly, she grabs him by the hand and pulls him towards her.
Dance with me. Come on. Woo!
No, not like this.
Wait. Do I know you?
No you don't. I gotta go.
James lets her go and pushes himself away from her. He looks behind her and sees the pretty boy looking in his direction, a threatening look in his eye. He backs out and exits the party. Interior James' bedroom continued. Later that night, James waits by his window. He sees Stephanie's car approaching the apartment building. The pretty boy comes out of the passenger side of her car. He goes around and takes Stephanie out of the car and helps her to her door. She's falling all over the place and laughing. He takes out her key and goes into the building with her.
Oh shit! No! No, no.
James quickly goes to the video monitor and sees Pretty Boy take her to her bedroom. He sees him caressing and touching Stephanie's body. He places her on the bed, he unzips his pants and leaves her. Pretty Boy makes his way to the bathroom. James quickly moves, he gets a copy of Stephanie's key and a small device. He runs out his door. Interior apartment building hallway continued. James runs down the hallway to Stephanie's door. He puts in the key slowly. The door opens and slowly makes his way inside. He starts to breathe heavily. His entire body is tense. Interior Stephanie's apartment continued. James waits by a wall near the bathroom. He holds the small device in his hand. He prepares to make his move. The bathroom swings open and Pretty Boy steps out, walking past James. James holds out his arm towards Pretty Boy's back. Shock. A surge of electricity shocks the boy to the ground. James leans over him. Boy still breathing. James turns him over. Pretty Boy suddenly opens his eyes wide and stares at James.
Shit!
James shocks him again. Pretty Boy jolts rapidly and finally stops moving. James goes over to Stephanie's room and sees her asleep. He tucks her under the covers and closes her door. He goes over to Pretty Boy and drags him out of the apartment. James' bedroom morning. James sits on his bed, staring in mid-thought, deeply thinking. Fantasy. James is on the phone talking to Stephanie. They're talking like close buddies. He has something else on his mind concerning Stephanie.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Oh, I'm just in a daze right now.
Yeah? It's not really hot outside.
Well, it's not because of that. I went to see this guy I'm talking to this morning.
Yeah? And?
I'd rather not say. You won't like it, so.
It's only if you want to share.
I don't know. I don't want to tell you because it might hurt you.
It doesn't matter what I think. You and this guy getting close. That's all.
Well, I won't tell you then if that's what you think.
So there's more.
Yes. Okay, I don't mind telling you, but it's going to be uncomfortable for you.
You could tell me whatever you want.
I just don't want you to get the wrong impression of me.
You could trust me.
Well, I saw this guy at his place. We started to do some talking and some kissing, and I don't want you to think bad of me, please.
Do what?
I was so confused.
It's okay.
His hands were roaming on me, and he kept insisting on it. I can't believe myself. I gave in, and in the heat of the moment.
Back to reality. James snaps out of his nightmare. Relief crosses his face. He catches his breath. Interior James' bedroom continued. James is sitting at his desk writing a letter.
Dear Mr. Mino, I want you to know that I received your last payment. Your daughter is safe. So far the job is going well. Let me know how long you want me to continue to shadow her. James.
He looks at the video monitor and sees that Stephanie is asleep. Exterior sidewalk continued. James walks to his car. A red car slowly cruises down the street passing James. He glances inside and sees Pretty Boy. Pretty Boy makes a glance at James and speeds away. James gets in his car and drives away. Exterior city street continued. James walks out of a diner after his lunch. As he throws a bottle of water in the garbage, he notices a black car with tinted windows slowly following him. James walks steadily to another block and then crosses the street. He noticed a black car behind him. The passenger side window of the car slowly slides open. James turns a corner and ducks behind the car. The black car suddenly speeds away. Interior James' bedroom night. James comes home and goes to his headphones. He rewinds the video of Stephanie and listens to Stephanie's phone conversation. Stephanie's image is displayed on the video monitor.
Hey, I had a lot of fun at your party the other night.
It's not me.
Thanks. Listen, do you want to meet up tonight?
Sure. Where do you want to go?
Just stop by my house.
Sure, that sounds good, babe.
Cool. Come by at 8. I'll wait for you. James checks his clock. It's 8:45 p.m.
Shit.
James hurries out of the room. Exterior Carl Apartments night. James arrives at the Carl Apartments and waits on the sidewalk, looking up at a towering building. He prepares himself and makes his move. Interior apartment hallway continued. James walks up the hallway steadily, looking behind him as he approaches apartment 30. He reaches the door and catches his breath. He begins to breathe heavily and feel uneasy. Calm down. He places his hand on the door, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, James is surprised by Stephanie's scream from inside the room. He looks around, hesitating, not knowing what to do. He turns the doorknob, locked. He backs up and with all his might plunges into the door. The door swings open and Stephanie's scream grows louder and clearer. Hurry! James runs into the bedroom. He stops in his tracks. He finds the bed empty. He looks around. There is no one in the bedroom. As he turns his head, a sharp blow from an unseen assailant comes across his face. James drops to his knees. Another blow strikes on his head. James recoils in pain and drops on the floor. Darkness. Interior James' bedroom day. James slowly awakens. He gathers himself and realizes he's back in his bedroom. He touches his head. There is a sharp pain and bruise. He gets up and notices that his recording equipment is gone. He checks his drawer and all his tapes are gone. His photographs are gone. The camera is gone. There is static coming from his video monitor. He checks his back pocket. His wallet is gone. Interior Stephanie's apartment continued. James walks in. The apartment is completely empty. No furnishings, no bed, no tables. Stephanie is gone. Interior apartment building hallway continued. Confused, James walks back to his apartment. He spots a pair of plainclothes police officers enter her apartment. One of the officers heads over towards James. James braces himself, struggling to remain calm and cool, a worried look on his face. He tries to open the door to his apartment, but it's too late. The police officer is face to face.
Hello, sir. Hello? We're just conducting an investigation in the area. There's been several disappearances of several men within this vicinity. What? Several men have gone missing. Rich men. We'll be asking questions and leaving notice in the area. Tell me, have you seen anything strange lately? Anything out of the ordinary?
James pauses. He looks. He thinks.
No, officer. Nothing out of the ordinary.
The officer leaves him a flyer and his card.
Call me if you have any information. Something you might have seen or might remember. Thank you.
The officer walks away. James looks at the flyer. It has the picture of the man Stephanie was with before, the handsome man. He's wearing the glasses. Another picture shows Pretty Boy. Unease and paranoia sinks in. James walks slowly to his apartment and locks his door. The end.
Cool. Thank you. How do you guys like that? All right.
Do they really do this? Like, with other movies, like they read out the script?
Yeah, almost, but
Really?
maybe not like a small overview.
Yeah.
So ideally, what they wanted me to do was critique the read, but I actually felt like they did a good job. I've been in the business pretty much my whole life, and one of the things that audience, the fans don't get is to read a project or read a script and come up with their own story. You know, a lot of times the story that we see on screen or in the movie theater is the director's vision. But when you read a book, when somebody's telling you a story, there's certain things that mentally you start building the story. And based on your ethnicity, your background, your age, the story that you build or the conclusion that you come to can be very different. You know, if we all read the same book, we may all take away something different. There's a book, one of my favorite books growing up, and it was called The Giver by Lois Lowry. And it is one of those open-ended books where it allows the audience to make the decision or to come up with what they feel the conclusion to that story is. And a lot of times in films and TV shows, we have that power, but since a director takes it, gets the actors, and they say, here, this is what we see of this project, we never get to read it and come up with our own conclusion. So this was a table read. Now, even though we were able to give you guys a voice behind these characters, if you were reading it for yourself, the characters could sound like anything. The cop could have been Hispanic. He could have been young, old. He could have been Asian. It doesn't matter. You know, Stephanie could have been a Valley girl. She could have been from the project. She could have been from Midtown, worked corporate. So that's the beauty in being able to read certain projects like this for yourself. You really get to read something and almost tell your own story by what you see with it. All right, so we appreciate you for listening. I didn't know that it was that much scene direction that I had to read. Else, I would have had somebody else do it. But yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Awesome. So, want to thank the actors and actresses as well for reading through that and going through that with us. And again, thank you, Mark, for sharing those insights with everyone here. One of the things we're going to do now is just give you a preview of the app, of the Scriptertainment app itself. For those of you who kind of came in a little bit later, again, Scriptertainment is a mobile app that allows you to access movie scripts, easily access movie scripts from your smartphone or tablet. So the same thing you would do with an ebook, you could do it with this app. And again, the name of what we're going to get into is we're going to get into the demo of the app and then bring up the panelists a little bit later on for our script, screens, and social, a panel about nothing that we hope you'll get a whole lot from. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off.
So, diving right in, when you first open the app, you're presented with a list of featured scripts. This list is broken out by genre, so you can scroll through the list on the home page and pick a genre that you might be interested in viewing for the day. This will give you a list of all the scripts we have by that genre, and in a sense, bringing you directly to the scripts page.
All right. Yeah, that is not part of the panel. All right. So we're going to ask the actors and actresses to kind of join the audience here. We're going to move the table down a bit, and then we're going to introduce our panelists. How you guys doing so far? All right. Cool. Yeah. All right.
We got these ready for you. The mic's still ready. I'll fix the chairs.
Yeah. You'll hand them out.
No, I don't need them.
No, I'm saying you'll hand them out to them. Well, yeah,
When the one's ready.
Yeah. All right, everybody's in the room. All right, cool. All right, so as just to go over the title again, it's Script, Screens, and Social, a panel about nothing. Again, definitely want to thank Microsoft for hosting us again tonight, Social Media Week, and again, you guys for your patience in coming out, the actors and the actresses. Don't forget, we are also having a raffle, again, for tickets to the Tribeca Film Festival, any of the matinees this week. You can see the team members over here, over on the table. And I'll get right into introducing the panel. All right, let's go. So, the moderator for the panel is someone that both Stephen and I have known for quite some time. Our backgrounds are in obviously social and digital marketing, and Jeff Colon has definitely been somebody who's been a mentor to both of us. He's the communications designer here at Microsoft. He's a DJ. He's a thought leader. Comments on pop culture on LinkedIn. You know, every social media platform you could think of. He's a podcaster. He's an author. And I'll let him come up and kind of do his thing when he gets up here. But let me go ahead and introduce some of the other folks who's going to be joining us this evening. So as I as I call you guys up, just fill in this way. All right, just so a little crowd control. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna do ladies first. All right, I'm gonna start off with ladies first. By just first introducing um, Haria Wright, who is the founder of the Black TV and Film Collective and managing partner of Infinite Wings Media. She's an independent feature film producer, and she's led production of multiple independent feature films from development to market. So, Haria, I asked her to um, come up and join us here. Okay. You can grab a mic. Cool. All right. Next, I want to introduce, I'll reintroduce Mark John Jeffries, who led the table read earlier on. Again, his credits include Stuart Little 2, Spider-Man 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, Notorious. List goes on and on and on. But we want to bring Mark back up here, join the panel. Yeah, I'll bring it back up. Cool. Yeah, just file it over here. Cool. Next, I want to introduce someone else who I've known for a very long time, and somebody who has a lot of experience in entertainment, over 20 years of experience. His name is Rashidi Hendricks from Metallic Entertainment. He is the CEO. He's an executive producer and showrunner of the highly acclaimed second season of the We Are the Joneses from BET. He is a co-founder and chief content officer at Laugh Radio. He'll come up here and kind of do his thing and tell you about his background as well. So I want to invite Rashidi up onto the panel as well. Thank you. All right, grab a mic. All right, next up, joining us is Paul Longo from the Cameron Talent Agency, and he is a screenwriter. We're very, very happy to have him here, just as well as our other panelists. His first screenplay, Under Your Skin, was selected as the finalist at the Austin Film Festival. It was in the top 50 out of over 3,500 submissions. His work has been featured on the Hallmark Channel. His screenwriting has been featured in Meddling Mom, which has had very strong ratings and continues to play in rotation. And he'll come up and share a little bit more about what he does as well. So I want to invite Paul up to come and join us. Thank you. Pass that down. All right. The next panelist is Donovan Rodriguez. He is an entertainment lawyer. He's a legal eagle here. He represents producers, talent, entertainment companies, and entrepreneurs. And he's going to bring that aspect of the legal aspect of the business into the conversation, which is obviously very important. Earlier, when I asked you guys, how many screenwriters out there, how many directors and producers, you can see the kind of cross section of folks that we have in here, and we wanted to make sure that there was diversity in the types of folks who are involved in the business. So very happy to have Donovan joining us and add in. So go ahead and join up. All right. And let me just get this. man. Yes. All right. Sorry about that. What I'll go ahead and do is introduce to you Montrese White from Marvel Studios. He's originally from Paterson, New Jersey, and now lives out in LA. This again, like the rest of our esteemed panelists, he's done some really amazing, and cool things. He's been a part of just about every one of the Spider-Man films and editing those. He's been a part of Deuce Bigelow. He's been a part of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So just think of the entire Marvel universe. He's a part of that universe, which I think is really exciting to be able to have him also join us via Skype. And last but not least, I know he's gonna kill me for this because I did go out of order. I definitely want to introduce the founder of Scriptertainment, Mr. Stephen Longsworth Jr. Come on up. He's so again, I gave you guys a little heads up about Scriptertainment in the background. Scriptertainment is a Cybogle tech company. Stephen works in paid social for a digital marketing firm. I told you earlier that we both have backgrounds in digital marketing where we met Jeff. He has 9 years of experience in the business, and that's kind of like bringing the culmination of the script, screens, and social together with the panelists that we have here. So I'll hand it over to Jeff. Come on up, and y'all don't have to hear from me for a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. All right, thanks. Leave that on mute. Yeah, there we go. Skype, when it works well, it works. When it doesn't work well, it could be interesting. Glad to have everyone here. We got a lot of knowledge we definitely want to share with the room, and also questions that people might have. We like to break the fourth wall since we're all, in screenwriting or at least in that world. So feel free to raise your hand if you have, questions for specific panelists. Due to time limitations, we want to make sure we talk to Montrese first because he's actually editing current film for Marvel. So he's going to have to sort of jump off quick, and then we can sort of move to a lot of the other areas. But Montrese, good to have you with us. I wanted to have you share.
Hello, how are you?
Good. We wanted to have you share sort of what aspects of editing. And if we think about this now, the editor has a lot of amazing, control in terms of creative control in the post-editing world. What aspects of that are individual versus working in conjunction with, a larger team? And how do you bring that together to really, bring a concept to life?
Okay, I just want to say thank you for having me. And just to kind of answer your question, it depends. It depends on the scale and level of the movie and the project that you're on. When you're dealing with these big budget movies, these action-packed movies, it takes quite an amount of people to get the job done, especially in editorial. Usually when it's a bigger budget movie, it's not just one editor. It's fused to like several editors, and we all play our roles to get the end product accomplished. And with this big budget, we usually kind of distribute our workflow, what needs to be done. And usually when it's the bigger budget shows, we all have our strong points in the editing room. Like some people are good at cutting sound, some editors are good at the storyline, which is extremely important. Some editors are good at cutting action sequences. and we all do bits and pieces of it, and we just collaborate and assemble it, all together. But then sometimes you have other smaller shows, depending on what you're working on. Sometimes it doesn't need that capacity of editors. So it may be one editor, two editors. You basically have a full range of creativity, assembling the cut together to present to the director. And, then it goes from that process. The director, he takes a look at the editor's assemble, edit, and, he makes his changes, which is another phase where it comes to the director's cut. And he does his cut to present to the studio to show him his vision, of the story. And then, goes from there.
One buzzword that's been big lately is, the reshoot. We hear it, quite a bit. What's your experience now with reshoots?
Oh, the reshoot process is basically where sometimes depending on, like when you show the product to present it to the studio and, they may have some little loopholes or doubts or questions or just direction of like how they want to present the storyline where they might want to go back and, reshoot or the term we use now is additional photography where they might want to go reshoot a few different scenes, with performances of like gaps within the storyline that just was confusing to the audience that they just want to go back and reshoot. And, and that process is, it's pretty common now in the industry. And especially a lot of movies that I've worked on. We do a lot of additional photography. Just to go back to hit those strong story plots, and just present the story the best way that we can. And that's practically what we do as far as with the reshoots. We go reshoot scenes, and depending on what it is, or if it's the better the movie or for a specific location, and then just add it into the cut. And we have the audience when we realize that things we have additional photography included in the movie.
These are good ones. I want to now open it up to a couple of the entire panel here. With this next question, back in the golden era of the music industry, A&R people would, they would sign basically an artist, but then they moved into actually signing songwriters, and then Hollywood followed later by signing actors, to a deal, and then started to sign screenwriters. I mean, how much does that model make sense anymore in this sort of world we've been living in the past decade, where we have a number of different creative tools?
I'm sorry. Can you speak up a little bit? I can't really hear you.
I asked the panel basically just a question on the new models that we have, Montrese. Just wanted to open it up to the panel here for a second. Who wants to take that first one? Stephen, Paul, Donovan?
I can take that. So in terms of business models, definitely I think the industry, is changing and has changed. When you talk about models and new models, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Netflix, because they've really created their own model in getting distribution out and not having to go through a studio to distribute, right? So, and then they got to the point of being able to finance their own films. So talking about changing models, Netflix is the first thing that comes to mind for me. I think just like we've seen with every other industry, the film industry, is ready to be broken and is in that process. Not broken to destroy, but broken to, fix back up and make better. So that's my, initial thought and my outlook on it. And that's the first model that comes to mind, the first company that comes to mind to me, that's made a clear impact on the industry, where they're getting backlash now. And Montrese and I, we were having that conversation, just the other night and talking about that. And, we're trying to break models with Scriptertainment. So.
Others adding?
Yeah, I mean, also, I think that a lot of actors are now taking active roles in creating content. We're starting to see, especially with this last cycle of development. I mean, out of probably, I would say, of the 40 or 50 or 60 projects that I saw on the pages, you got Michael B. Jordan has 3 projects that he's executive producing. You got projects from Selma Hayek. You got projects from Viola Davis. Everybody's producing now. And I think that the model now is that these actors want to be able to tell stories. They want to be able to be creative. They can't do the same things that they can do when they're doing these big tentpole movies, when they're doing the Marvel and the DC comic movies, and all of these big budget movies. So Netflix and all the streaming models, which we call the DSPs, which are digital streaming platforms, they allow you to now put an A-list package into a kind of more of a tight knit long form story. So it's what's going on now is that yes, actors are still doing deals. They're still doing these talent deals, but they're also doing deals that also allow them to develop and produce projects, and they're doing it across the board, from cable to the streamers and on the broadcast.
And I mean, as a producer, I really love, to Rashidi's point, the fact that now actors are producing. And because I recommend that anyone who wants to work in this industry should learn how to produce, because then you are not waiting for somebody to offer you a job or to offer you an opportunity. Instead, you are creating your own opportunities, and you're also creating opportunities for others, from above to below the line talent. So it used to be where, an artist would say, oh, I have a production company, and that didn't have a lot of weight. But now when an artist says, I have a production company, it does carry a lot more weight, because they are able to to get their content and to get their work done. And I would say also about Netflix, as much as they are breaking the model, I've seen them actually also kind of following suit in terms of even, I'll use the word attracting talent from other networks. They're getting in a lot of trouble right now. Some people call it poaching of talent, where, for example, Shonda Rhimes and a lot of other producers now are moving to Netflix. There's lawsuits going on about that right now. But I think that the industry is very much in flux. Nobody has figured it out. And I don't think anybody ever will figure it out, because as soon as you get something figured out, it's just going to change again.
Yeah, I think the model is and has been ripe for disruption. I was looking at some of the numbers of studio films that have been produced over the past several years, and the number is decreasing. I think it was only about 80 films from major studios were produced in 2017. And when you think about the number of those that are Marvel films and the number of those that are sequels and adapted content, there's not that much of an opportunity to actually get a studio film made. And even when you sign one of those deals, as a writer, I have some colleagues that have signed studio deals. They kind of eat content that never gets out there. So I have friends that have, sold scripts into studios and they just never get made. And I think what's great now is that content is more democratized, and you can get it out to a Netflix, you can get it out to an Amazon Prime. It's interesting that the number of studio films has gone down, but the overall number of films produced has gone up. So there's a longer tail of films. And when you think about producers like Jason Blum and Blumhouse Films with Get Out, Whiplash, he doesn't produce anything over $5 million. So he's looking at doing, he's placing his bets on big ideas and hoping that they, skyrocket and get out there. So I think it's a great time to be in the content business right now.
I think one of the things that it is too is that a couple of years ago, people would go to the movies to see an A-list actor. If Will Smith was in the movie, if Idris Elba was in the movie, if a name was in the movie, people were going to see it. But now it's like the stories are more important because of these digital platforms. So you could have a movie that's on Netflix that outdoes a movie that has Colin Farrell or Ben Affleck attached to it, just because the way that social media is, the way that digital marketing is, it creates way more potential for viewers to just look at the content that they actually want to watch. A lot of times it was like going to the movies was, it's not much out. This movie is whack. This has been in the theater for 2-3 weeks, so we're just gonna go see this. But now you have so many different streams and so many different ways of watching great stories that it's kind of making it to where the bigger studios can't make money off of the same kind of projects that they did 5-10 years ago.
I mean, but we didn't really have a choice but to go to the movies a little while back, because now it's, there's tons of movies in the theater that I would love to see. I just follow them on my Roku, and 3 weeks later, I'm watching that movie in the comfort of my own home. So I very rarely go to the movies anymore unless it's just to support the filmmakers.
And well, Netflix, talking about changing the landscape. Netflix is like the Lannisters. They have a lot of money, right? And so they can make more content than the studios. And so we now have major studios scrambling to merge, to see, strategize to see how they can compete with Netflix or compete against Netflix, because they have a lot of money and they're making a lot of content and they're attracting the best filmmakers from the networks and from the studios. And content is king, right? And Netflix knows that. They use technology. They leverage technology. They understand their users and our tastes and our interests, and they're making films based on our tastes and our interests. And so, most recently, Netflix is looking to buy movie theaters so that they can distribute their movies themselves. And so they have the resources, they have the money, and that's a big reason why they are so successful. So if you're thinking about a model, find something that you do well, that's innovative, that's creative, but you also have to think, how am I going to fund this? Because if you can't fund it and it's a great idea, somebody else is going to buy it up and take it from you. If you want to hold on to it, you have to figure out, well, how am I going to build the resources and develop the financing in order to maintain this and keep it going.
You bring up a good point, which how many have seen that Netflix released, I think this past week, a curation app that looks like Snapchat and Instagram? Anyone? Okay, a couple of people. So check that out, because that was one of the biggest issues I think that Netflix had was, well, what do I sit down and actually watch? Because there's so many things out there that they created this curation app, which leads me to the next question I have for all of you, which is basically, for much of its existence, social media was this highlight reel. We sort of use it to show the height of our lives, never really like the bottom of our sort of existence. But how do we use that now as more of a creation tool? How do we use sort of these platforms in both the filmmaking as well as like the pilot process? Have you seen any examples out there that you can share, or any other wisdom in this area?
I love social media, and I also hate social media at the same time. Unfortunately, I think it's honestly, it is a way for independent content creators to really grow support for their work. But at the same time, there's so much out there that even when you have work, one of the biggest things with members of the Black TV and Film Collective, one of the biggest complaints that I hear is, my own family, they won't even like my, I put something up and they're liking Beyonce's videos and what about my movie? They didn't like my movie, they didn't share my movie. And it's just so much content out there, and things are moving so fast. So now you almost have to, you have to think about it as a content creator holistically. You can't just make something great and expect to put it up on social media and expect that people will come. You really have to think through what is your social media strategy, and then also what is your publicity strategy. Who are you hiring and putting on a team that's going to be calling those publications and calling those blogs and getting people to do reviews and write-ups, etc. And then who's going to be lobbying film festivals on your behalf? Because you can't even, if you submit your film, your whatever to a film festival, that's just basically money to their bottom line. You have to have somebody that's really lobbying to get your film into those festivals as well. So, but social media is just a small part of that, so I don't know what you're going to say, Rashid.
Well, I think Amazon tried to do it. I don't know if you remember when they first came out, like, and started doing original content. They would greenlight these pilots and then let the fans decide which pilot should get picked up, which was the dumbest thing in the world. And the only reason I say that is because networks are in the business of selling shows. I mean, producing shows and licensing and distributing shows. So you would think that the people that work there know what's best for the audience that fits their demographic. So, but I think that, just piggybacking on what she says, the strategy, as a content creator is really to figure out how to create your content and how to strategically get it out there in many different formats. And what I mean by formats, I mean, you have SVOD, which is subscription on demand. You have AVOD. You have anything that's video on demand, or syndication, or what I tell people when they ask me what I do. I never tell them I'm a producer. I tell them I'm in the IP business. I'm in the business of intellectual properties. And what I mean when I say that is that the content that I create, I plan to put it on not just one platform. I want to put it across the board. I want to put it in 5 or 6 different places. I want that content to live even beyond me, and figure out how do I make it work. So, I think the process of, after you've created your pilot, after you've done your content, is to look at where are all the places you can put it, and how can you monetize it, and how do you use social media to do that? You know what I'm saying?
But you also have to really understand your audience as well, so that your efforts can be targeted, and you can maximize the energy and the time and the money that you're putting in.
Pardon me, Monty, we call him Monty. Montrese let us know that he has to get off, so he can get back to his editing room and wrap up editing Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we thank him for his time. He said he wished he could stay on a lot longer, but he's at work right now. He's on the West Coast, so
Thanks for having
a little earlier out there.
Sorry, it sounds so interesting. I wish I could stay on to hear all this positive talk I hear right now. And but again, I'm so sorry. I'm just in the middle of a session right now, and I just stepped away real quickly. But I would love to hear more about this.
You want a hat, Jeff?
Tell me we like his hat.
We like your hat, Monty.
To be there. Excuse me?
Jeff wanted you to know that he likes your hat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Everybody.
We'll get in touch with you.
All right, Steve. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Brother.
Peace.
All right.
All right.
You can just exit him out.
We were in the.
Yeah, we're talking social.
Yeah.
A couple of things. I think, and someone mentioned Will Smith earlier. It's amazing to me that Will Smith is like the hottest thing smoking on Instagram right now. And I'm watching him revive his rap career through Instagram, right? Dropping crazy bars. And he interjects that in between being in Australia on set, in between talking to Sophie AI and, doing mock videos of his son. So he's like taking over Instagram. Well, the smart thing that he's doing is he's then driving you to his YouTube channel to watch the 10-minute, version of that video. So, I mean, we already know Will Smith had it figured out, but just to watch him come onto Instagram so late in the game and dominate it is pretty amazing. And watch how he cuts his stuff, because he'll cut a minute down, like, I mean, like he's cutting a feature film, right? So he's got that part of the game down too. And then you mentioned targeting. So I work in paid social media, and now it's gotten to the point that if you really want to drive more traffic to your videos and the things that you're promoting, and you're not a Will Smith that already has a built-in fan base, you might want to think about putting $100 behind your Instagram post or your Facebook post, and you will see the traction off of that. You will literally see it. If your stuff just isn't good, that's not going to change anything in terms of the reaction. But with the right targeting and a few dollars, you will get a little more out of it than you're getting now. So that's just something to keep in mind. And with all these platforms now, you can work within your budget, and that's what's good about it.
Can I just say one thing? I disagree with you just a little bit. I don't think it's amazing what Will Smith is doing on social media at all, because that is not Will Smith doing it. That is his social media team, that's actually executing his social media. So social media takes a lot of time, and it's a job, and so that's like, I don't want you to look at a magazine and say, why can't I look like that girl? That is Photoshop, so and it's the same thing with Will Smith's social media. So you have to take it you really have to put people on your team and really think about, okay, how are we going to execute our social media strategy in order to be successful?
And talk about social media strategy. The most important thing you need when you're creating content, other than a great script, of course, or a great concept or great idea, is funding. But the second most important thing is distribution, and that's where social media comes in. But as Horia said, you can't just put your content up on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram and leave it there and expect it to become viral. You have to market it. You have to build a team. You need a team because it's very time consuming. You're writing, you're producing, you're bringing it all together, you edit it, you have the finished video or film, and now you're trying to get eyeballs. You need a team. You need a publicist. You need a marketing strategist. You need a social media strategist. You need a group of people who will help you to get the word out, because you need to. Marketing is about bringing the customers to your goods. Sales. Marketing is you bringing your goods to the customer. Sale is when the customer comes to your goods. That's when you actually sell. So in marketing, you have to bring your goods and services to your consumer, to the customers. You have to bring it to them. You can't just leave it there. It's the same thing with crowdfunding, Kickstarter or Indiegogo. You set up your crowdfunding campaign and you expect within 30 days that 300,000 people are going to donate $1. It doesn't work that way. You have to bring your idea, bring your product, bring your concept to people, and that's what marketing is.
Just to go on the crowdfunding notion, I think what's interesting, I think, about crowdfunding and how that's disrupting the model is, if you have that built-in fan base, and when you think, just think about the movie Super Troopers 2, which just got produced like 18 years after the initial Super Troopers, and Super Troopers was this low-budget comedy. It built a fan base over years, and a lot of people that watched it on Netflix.
Sorry, guys.
A lot of people that watched it on Netflix. I know, I psyched it out. Over the years, and now we're...
Hit the wrong button. My bad.
And got up to about $35, $40 an hour freelancing, but it wouldn't be full time. It's not 40 hours, right? I might be freelancing at that rate for 15 hours or 20 hours for the week. So it's a combination of the dollar amount as well as the amount of hours that you're asking from them. And they should be able to give you an idea of how many hours a job will take. They should know that. So at my level, I can get up to $35, $40 an hour, but someone maybe at a mid-level you might get for $20 or $25 an hour, and then depends on the job that you want them to do. So $8 an hour isn't going to cut it. Hiring, right, a freelancer in social media, you're looking at $15 and up easily.
And one thing I'll just say, not everyone is in a position where they can hire a team. And if you're not in a position where you can hire a team, then that's okay. Because if you're on step 3 or you're on step 4, no matter how much you want to be, you're not going to be on step 25. So focus on putting one foot in front of you. And the first thing you have to focus on is creating excellent work. Focus on the work. The work will attract the resources, both financial and human, that you need to elevate yourself and to get you where you're going. But because I've done projects, and especially for independent artists, we just trying to pay our rent or our mortgages or whatever, pay that MTA that keeps going up. So you may not always have the extra money to hire a publicist, hire a social media, but you will get there if you focus on creating work that attracts collaborators. Because when you create something amazing, people want to be on your team. Because success attracts other people. Okay, so just put one foot in front of yourself and focus on the work. In our business, the only thing that matters is the work.
True that.
I would add LinkedIn. It's been more, Microsoft owns LinkedIn, right? Now? Yes. Does it? Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is a more vetted version of Craigslist at this point, and you could just literally search social media, New York person, scroll through, find a few people that look interesting to you, and just reach out to them. Just have the conversations. Not everything has to be a high pressure like job interview or ends. Just add them on LinkedIn, get the relationship going.
Last question.
A lot of questions.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you for doing this panel. I'm producing a pilot right now, so when I'm done editing it, what would you recommend I do after that?
What is it about?
It's about the entertainment business. It's like a comedy drama. It's funny. It's good. It's dope.
Are you producing this pilot with the hope to put it out yourself, or
no? I want to get it picked up and distributed.
Okay. Well, depending on like what platform you want to get it distributed for will matter, because typically, if you're trying to go after a cable direction or a DSP direction, which is like the Netflix, Hulu, they're really more interested in the script than they are into the actual pilot. They're not going to buy a pilot per se. They would rather be more interested in the voice of your script. So if you're looking to just put it out, yourself and kind of do more of the independent route, that would probably be the reason why you would really want to do a pilot. I would say, did you write the material? You wrote the script yourself?
Yeah, I wrote everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Me and my partner right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that the first thing you should do is, if you do want to go the more higher tier, is to get some coverage on your script. And if you're not familiar with coverage is basically like people that actually read scripts and give your script a grade. Then there's 3 grades they give you. They say consider, they say good, consider, and recommend. I think those are the 3, right? Agent,
Where
right?
can I get that coverage from?
So you can get coverage. There's a few places online that are pretty cool that you can get coverage from. Some of them are terrible, but if you talk to me later, I can give you a couple of suggestions of some places. I mean, most of the time agencies will give you coverage. So it's better to get it from an agency because then they may want to rep you and shop your script. But honestly, if you really want to go in that direction, really focus on writing a really great script, because that's really what's going to get a bite from a studio or a network.
Yeah, it's for a series.
It's great that you have because that's proof of concept.
and that's a good way to shop or to pitch your project is to shoot the pilot because a lot of networks will, if you're a first-time writer and you don't have a production company backing you, they're going to want to see, and if it's a quirky comedy, it depends on the genre, it's execution dependent, they're going to want to see some proof of concept. You're going to have to go out and shoot a pilot and then come back and say, well, this is what it will look like. And it's really well done, and the performances are great, it's great writing. And of course, you need to have the script written for the rest of the series to show them. But it's great to have a pilot if it's well done.
Okay. In terms of getting coverage too, I've found screenplay contests and festivals are a great way as well, and a lot of them will give you coverage as part of the entry fee. And you know, if you place, there's a lot of PR and attention, and a lot of times direct connection with producers. And Blacklist is also a great place to get coverage. And they based on your coverage, you'll find more.
One more question. All right. So I'm being told I could take one more question, but we're not going to rush out of here. So if you have questions afterward, come up and chat.
Yeah, I have a question about the pitching your projects. I have over like 2.5 years of documentation from different various locations I've worked on, like different projects from like Source Magazine, some just producing different forms of content. So I have that just logged in. So trying to organize that and pitch it to either a distribution company for a major project. How do you go about doing that? That's the question.
So what type of project is it?
Whether it be like sports pitches, like as far as my projects that I've worked on. Okay. So basically, what it is I've worked on various magazines, publications. I have all this content, so I actually created my own form of YouTubes, whereas I had different 1-minute teasers of each form of, whether it be sports, each genre, and then now I want to try to pitch it as like a real. Did I license it? It's my own content, so I didn't have to like license it. It's kind of like a complicated question, but.
So you are developing a platform.
I'm developing my own.
So it's a platform. It's like your own YouTube.
It's my own.
And what are you looking for when who are you pitching it to?
Like I said, at this point, I want to pitch it to a major.
Major what?
A major network.
Oh, a network.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, if you wrote, so let's say you wrote articles for the Source, or you wrote articles for these different periodicals,
right?
And you're the source material, and your articles. Then you're saying you're trying to take those articles and develop them into stories, long form stories, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that even though you're the source material, at times a lot of writers that write for magazines, they sell their stories for work for hire. So you still have to go back and get a license from the original for your own work,
right?
In a way.
Okay.
But you're the writer, so it would be not as complicated. But
well, basically, each magazine that I worked for at the time, it was like for that one periodic time that we just get the contract, and then I'll do the work, and then the extra content that I had laid over, then I had a story about it, and I'm like, okay, all of this content is laid over, and you have ideas from that, so it's like you can either make a story or you can sell it to somebody,
My advice would be to focus on what within your pool of content, which 1, 2, 3 are those top, ideas that you have based on that work that you want to develop into a series. Are these narrative series?
Yeah, narrative.
Yeah. So which ones of those do you want to develop into series? And if you know which ones you want to develop into series, then that'll also tell you who you should be pitching. Because the first thing is like, okay, who is actually the right people to buy this type of work, whether it's sports or whether it's something that's more, you want to turn into something that's more like thriller oriented, etc. And then you were going to say something else, were you?
No, I was just saying, like if you're trying to, like a lot of the stories that you'll notice that are being bought the buyers, which are the networks and streamers and stuff like that. They like to buy source material. They like to buy material that has derived from another work. So that's a good thing because you're technically the writer of that original work. So like everybody's been saying, it's just all about how good the content, the script is. If you can make your content, if you can make your script amazing and you have the right coverage and you get it, you get it to a point where it's a sellable product, then that's what's really going to count. So.
All right. Hopefully you got something from this panel about nothing. Let's give a warm round of applause to the panelists. Montrese, Araya, Paul, Stephen, Donovan, Rashidi, and Mark. And I'm going to turn it back to Jameson.
Hey, thank you very much for staying so long. I hope you really got something out of it. Just some closing remarks. One thing, like I said in the beginning, that the people that are sitting right next to you are great opportunities to network. And I'd also say these folks gave away a lot of free game tonight. I mean, this is stuff. Otherwise, you'd have to buy this at Barnes and Noble. Somebody would have charged you a seminar, $3,500 to come hear the same kind of game. I mean, we have an attorney on here. We have people who are producing and acting and doing these things live. So make sure when you come to these things, take notes, record it, put it on your phone. That's free game. Be ready to do your pitch. Practice, practice, practice. Get coverage. Remember to good, consider, recommend, right? You could get it from the blacklist. There's places where you can go to get that, get those. Think about festivals. The most important thing is the work, as what was said earlier. Make sure you vet the social media manager. Try and get 1 month free, like Mark said. So you vet them out. And Stephen, as Stephen said, look beyond film and TV. Think about video games. There's all types of content out there that people need, and they need screenwriters for, directors for, they need producers, they need talented people like you all working on that. Make sure you also think about being commercially viable, because you can't pay your rent with dreams, right? So, but they can turn manifest into something that you can monetize. So I don't want to trivialize dreams, but as the attorney said, we have to get to the money, or the bag, as they say. Also,
actually, I remember now. It's recommend, consider, pass.
Recommend, consider, pass. All right.
Sorry.
And just a few last things. A good friend of mine who's also a filmmaker said something on a panel that she was on. I think she got this from someone else, but even with everything we just said, I thought this was really powerful. Is don't wait for permission to make your work. If you don't have the money, it's okay. If you don't have the whatever, just do the damn work. Like, this is how we got here. This is a vision Stephen had. He said, I think I'm going to do a mobile app. And we were like, all right. 3 years later, we got a demo. We got you guys in here. So just do the damn work. And don't forget, we have a raffle. We have stuff to give away. Go get it. You don't have to leave the room. You don't have to go home. You can stay here, like they say in the club. But we have some giveaways over here. We got a raffle and some stuff that you could go to the Tribeca Film Festival. I want to thank everybody on here for joining the panel again. Props to you guys. Microsoft, Social Media Week, and to you. Thank you very much for coming out, man. Thank you very much.
Three, 8644.
Oh.
That's me.
Winner!
8644.
All right, can we see All right. Dino is the winner of the raffle. He has won 2 matinee tickets to a movie at the Tribeca Film Festival. Congratulations, Dino. Come on.